Hey guys, Terry Red here, and in this video, I'm going to do something a little different than I normally do. I'm not going to be talking about virtual pinball, contrary to what you're seeing right now. I'm actually going to be talking about my favorite subject, which is Silent Hill. Now, why am I going to be talking about that? Well, today's a special day. Today is the 25th anniversary of Silent Hill coming out on PlayStation 1, the very first Silent Hill. It's hard to believe it's been 25 years, but it's true. So in this video, I basically kind of wanted to talk about Silent Hill in general, more specifically the Silent Hill 2 remake, because that's what may be coming out this year, and we've had newer trailers that just came out, so that's kind of been a big topic of discussion right now. So I wanted to go through those trailers and give my opinions about that, especially from my point of view as someone who, as you can see in this trailer here, is making his own fan-made Silent Hill virtual pinball game. So for anyone who may be interested in seeing more about that, you can see this video in my channel. But yeah, this is my own passion project I've been working on for on and off for a couple years, and I do it for fun. It's just a fan made creation, and as a big fan, I always wanted to do a Silent Hill themed virtual pinball game because, well, that's what I do. I make or mod or update virtual pinball games. So anyone who wants to watch that video, watch that. But we're gonna be talking all about Silent Hill. So let's jump right into that then. All right, so Silent Hill. So for me, for those who don't know, Silent Hill is a survival horror series that has been around for 25 years. There's been four original Japanese Silent Hills that came out by a lot of the same original team. We call them Team Silent. And then the movie came out a couple years later after the fourth game, and then after that, then it was Western developed games after that, and then for a long time, after Silent Hill, I think Downpour, or was it Book of Memories? I can't remember which one was the last one came out. We didn't have Silent Hill games for 10 years, I think. So we thought we would never see any more new content from Silent Hill, like actual original new games. We saw other little things like obviously Pachinko, which people got upset about, and say like Dead by Daylight or things like that. But we didn't think we would ever see new actual Silent Hill games. We figured Konami was done with all that. But lo and behold, like a year and a half ago, we had a big announcement from Konami, and what did they do? They announced like a whole bunch of Silent Hill projects coming out, like all at once. Like they just announced it. Like, we're like, wait, what? After 10 years of nothing, and now you're telling us we have a Silent Hill 2 remake coming out. We have Silent Hill Townfall, a new Silent Hill movie, which is going to be based on Silent Hill 2, made by the creators of the first Silent Hill movie. And then Silent Hill Ascension, which we didn't know what that was about, and then Silent Hill F, which is very intriguing because it's going to take place in Japan, which has never been done before with Silent Hill. So all of a sudden we have a bunch of new stuff coming out, and we're just like, it was overwhelming, to be honest. So it's just amazing that we actually finally have content coming out. So for me, my experience with Silent Hill was I had a PlayStation 1, but I completely missed Silent Hill. I sold my PlayStation 1 because I got into PC gaming before Silent Hill came out. I knew about Resident Evil, but I didn't know nothing at all about Silent Hill. So by the time Silent Hill 2 came out on the PlayStation 2 years later, I still hadn't heard anything about it. But then I remember seeing a demo of a game on a kiosk in EB Games here in Canada, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was actually Silent Hill 2, and it looked really intriguing, but it's not the same experience when you try that at a store like that. So then I went to rent some PC games. Yes, I actually had a store in Windsor, Ontario, that back then that would rent PC games. It's hard to believe. And I saw a box for a game called Silent Hill 2, and then when I looked on the back, like, oh, this is that cool game I was trying out. So I rented it, and I tried it out, and I was just totally immersed. Like the CG scenes, like what you're seeing right now, the sound, the music, the visual presentation, the oddness about it, the otherworldliness about it. Because I knew nothing about the series at all, so this is all brand new to me, and the game just kind of just, I don't know, it drew me in big time, and I only had it for a day. So, I played up to the Woodside Apartments, kind of got stuck, and, so didn't go much further than that. Well, then not too long after that, I heard Silent Hill 3 was also coming out on PC. So then I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to buy Silent Hill 2 because, I thought that was really cool. And I played through that game, and the best way I could describe it, guys, and so many other people would tell you the same thing. This game changed my life, and it's hard. It sounds silly, but it absolutely did. The story, hit me so hard and so personally. The way it was told, the emotional impact it had on me, the way it was presented, the mind trip it plays on you. And I don't want to get into spoilers in case any of you guys eventually do play either the remake or see the movie or have the chance to play the original, because I don't want to spoil that for you guys. All I can say is for everyone who's ever played it, they have the same reaction. It's just it's an absolute mastercraft at gaming. And it was just absolutely so well done. And it became my favorite series. So then I played Silent Hill 3 not too long after that. Same thing, absolutely loved it. Then Silent Hill 1, I went and played that, and even though it looked old by comparison, I still loved it. You know what I mean? It was just so raw and so terrifying, And then not long after that, Silent Hill 4 also came out, and same thing. Even though it had flaws, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Just very unique games. So after that, the movie came out. Despite it having its flaws and differences from the game series, I still loved it. I absolutely loved it, and that's why I'm making my virtual pinball game based on that. And so, from that point on, all the games were Western developed, and I actually still like the Western developed games. They're not the same as the original Japanese games, but they have their, like, I still love them. They have certain things about them that I really like, and even some things they even did better, believe it or not. But these first four original Japanese games made by the Team Silent in Japan are very special to a lot of people, and they're very hard to recreate that experience because they're very much a product of the time, the culture of the people who made it at that time, what they grew up with, what they enjoyed, what they read, it was just a very unique time. So, the best way to describe this series is it's American horror told through a Japanese filter. And that's what made it so special and unique. So that's why it's been kind of hard for any Western developed games to kind of recapture that. So fast forward after the very last game, Downpour, and I mentioned earlier, as of today, like it's been over 10 years since we've had, an actual Silent Hill game. We never thought we'd get new ones. So now that we have all these new ones being announced, the remake is the one that's possibly coming out next, and that's the one that everyone's talking about is super excited. Now, the thing with the remake is a lot of people feel like it's a masterpiece. Don't you dare remake this thing. Well, I had never felt that way myself because to me, a remake doesn't take away from the original because it still exists. But the remake can also be done in a way to add to the original game things that they wanted to do back then, but they couldn't because of the limitation of the technology or development time or whatever else. You know what I mean? Like there were things that the original developers wanted to add into this game, but they just couldn't for whatever reason. So, 20 years, it's over 20 plus years since this game was made. So what we can have today can be very visually amazing in comparison, and, maybe we can have new elements added to it as long as the core experience is the same. The storytelling, the sound, music, the atmosphere, the ambiance, the characters, like as long as that core stuff is left alone, that's all I care about. The rest, modernize it, make it look so much nicer, that's what I want to see. I'm not one of these guys who feels that don't you dare touch this original game and change it in any way, shape, or form. I think you can have the soul of the original game modernized in a new remake so that new people, new audiences who would never touch an old game like this can enjoy it, and and then maybe enjoy it in a different way, maybe in a better way in some ways. It is possible, but we'll have to wait and see. So So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video here. So you can see this is the original that I've been letting run here. I mean, let's be honest here. It looks like a 20 plus year old game, but it's still an amazing experience. So who is making the new remake? Well, it's not a Japanese developer. It's actually a Polish developer called Bloober Team. Now, for some people, they were concerned when they heard about this, because they this game has, it's on such a high pedestal for so many people that no one could do it justice. You know what I mean? So when people heard that Bloober Team were making it, they were worried because they've never really done a big AAA game like this before. They've done their own games and they, have had very good success with their own games, but they've never been that level of game before, right? And for other reasons that I'm not going to bother into this video, but bottom line is, their last two games. So like, there's the Medium, for example, was the first game of theirs that I actually played, and as you can see here, it rated extremely well. And it's gotten good reviews, but there's some people that because of the content, the story, it's a very sensitive topics and how it was handled. Not everyone interpreted it the same way. I interpreted it in a similar way to kind of like the first Silent Hill game in some ways, but some people did not interpret it that way, and so it's kind of a very controversial game in some ways. I absolutely loved it. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous game, and I actually liked the story. Like it's yeah, I thought it was fantastic. But it's not for everyone, and some people criticize it because they're like, well, it's just a walking simulator. Well, that's not to me. That's not a problem. Like I don't need every game I play to have heavy action or other things like that. If the story engages me enough, and it wasn't perfect, it started off really slow for me, but then when I got pulled into it, I played right through it, and absolutely loved it, you know. So I don't need, every game to be the same to have an amazing sense of action or anything else, right? So I personally love the medium. It was basically like a resume to show that yeah, these guys want to make a Silent Hill game because it's very obviously influenced by the visuals of Silent Hill, right? And it even had Akira Yamaoka doing some of the music on there. So I absolutely loved it. So then that got me wanting to play Layers of Fear, which is the newer uh, well, a remastered version of all their previous Layers of Fears games put into one game with new content as sort of like one single game, and it's been completely updated for Unreal Engine 5. In fact, I think it was the first Unreal Engine 5 game that got released. And this trailer, as you can see, it's kind of showing you the before and after. So, I mean, and I think they worked on this with Onshar Studios. So, I mean, you could see that they have a grasp on using Unreal Engine 5 and creating really beautiful visuals. If you've never played through this game, like I played only this one. I never played the originals, so I got to experience this version, which is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and it had an extra new content and kind of stitches it all together nicely, right? So it's an absolutely beautiful game. So it really showed me that yeah, they have the technical ability to make a gorgeous looking modern Silent Hill game. So that that's a Bloober in a nutshell. Controversial choice for some people to make a new Silent Hill game. I was the opposite. I was extremely happy to know they were making the Silent Hill game because to me, as long as they stick to the core aspects of the original game, I'm happy. If they keep all of that, I'm happy. So the other aspect is the combat and all that, which we'll get into later. We'll talk about that when we look into the trailers. So yeah, so now that we are kind of caught up as to who's making the video, what I'm going to do now is I want to just watch each trailer and then go back and talk about what I see in them. Okay, so for now, let's just bring up. Let's see here. So this is the first teaser trailer. It was like the first new announcement. We weren't told we were getting any new Silent Hill content at all. 10 years of absolute silence for Konami. All they were doing is basically making pachinko machines. So we thought we'd never see anything new ever again. We thought the series was done, basically. So then they do this huge, new stream announcing a bunch of new games. And the first thing we get is this video. They didn't even tell us anything. They just started playing this video. And this is what we got.
Could she really be here, waiting for me? Mary died of that damn disease 3 years ago.
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill.
I know what you are. I know why I needed you. But it's all over now. I don't need you anymore. I'm ready. Mary?
All right, so yeah, let's just say that after this first got premiered and I first saw that, I was in absolute disbelief. I could not believe we were getting a remake for Silent Hill 2. Like I felt numb. I just couldn't believe it. I was in disbelief, and then they go on to premiere or tease multiple other games or projects coming out and a movie being made about Silent Hill 2. So as a fan a year and a half ago when all this was shown in one single announcement trailer, I was blown away. So it's been almost a year, I would say a year and a half since that first trailer, that we haven't seen or heard anything at all regarding this game, and it's been, let's just say, a lot of fans have not been very patient or not understanding, because we haven't seen or heard anything. A lot of people are thinking it's canceled or all sorts of other things, now myself, like I make my own games, and I understand how game development works. It takes years to make these games, guys. So I was not worried in the slightest, but some people just didn't handle it very well, and they get very, very nasty about it, So basically, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through and just talk about what I've seen in this trailer as a Silent Hill fan, as a fan of this game. So I'm not going to try. I'm going to try to stay away from any spoilers or anything like that. But so that's what I'm going to do right now. So this is more geared towards other Silent Hill fans and what I saw in this trailer and what I think about it. So this trailer, I'll turn the sound down here, but. So this opening, first of all, now to be clear, so that you guys understand, a lot of people when they saw this, they thought this was a CG trailer, as in like computer pre-rendered computer animation, not real time in game graphics. Like literally, like everyone thought that, and I had to try to convince people, like, no, guys, this is real time in game graphics using Unreal Engine 5. This is not some pre-rendered stuff, and a lot of people are in disbelief, but no, Bloober is this capable, and with this new engine, like, they absolutely are able to do this. This is all real time. So yeah, I think it's kind of weird. We'll talk more about this in for the next trailer, but so this opening here, this is probably the one that is the most jarring for a lot of people because like the first thing we see, and it's very iconic. It's like the opening scene for the original game. So for a lot of people, they were like kind of upset because James is like not putting his hand in front of his face like he did in the original trailer, right? And he looks a little different. He looks a little like unshaven or whatever like that, and basically some people are feeling like, well, he looks sweaty. He's checking his hands and stuff like that. Like that's too much emotion, too much reaction or whatever like that, and so I understand why they're saying that, and I can't say too much without spoiling things, but the problem is we're watching this from the point of view of someone who has already played the game, so we're going to have a different point of view than someone who knows nothing about the story. So it's kind of hard for us to fairly judge that compared to someone who has never played or known the game at all. Now this, like, look at this, like. Holy crap. Like, when I saw this, I was blown away. Because, let's go back and look at the original game, okay? Like, where are we? Yeah. Like, this is the original game, okay? Look at the difference there. Like, that's a huge difference in visual quality. Like, you can't even compare them. And this is all the actual game graphics, guys. This is real-time in-game graphics. Like, if you go to the Steam page of that, these are some of the screenshots from the game on the Steam page. That's the one similar to the actual game, right? Like, look at the difference there. Like, it's a night and day difference. This is gorgeous, guys. Now, my guess is that this is being shown on PC at max settings at a high-end PC with smoother frame rates. And I'll get back to why I'm talking about that. But yeah, and that's very cool. They show like the map of Silent Hill kind of like on a tourist map, which we never saw before. And I mean, everything, the detail of everything is just amazing here. Like, look at this. We've never seen anything with that kind of detail in any of the shops ever. And this is, again, the actual in-game real-time graphics, guys. This isn't some pre-rendered movie clips. Like, this is the actual game you're looking at right now. Like, look at that detail. That's the Woodside Apartments there, and that is absolutely amazing. You want to see what Woodside Apartments looked like in the original game? I'll show you. This is the Woodside Apartments in the original game. Like, this is a small capture of it, and that's what it actually looks like in the original game. Like if you like here, yeah. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get right to that part there. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm trying to make sure I'm not too far ahead, but yeah, this is what it looks like in the original game, right? I mean, don't wrong, I love this. This is beautiful. I love this, But then you look at the new one, and I mean, look at the difference in detail. Like, it's actually staggering, And again, we're talking about 20 years difference, right? The fog. This is like volumetric fog, guys. Look at the debris. Like, and then this scene here, this is when you first see your very first lying figure in the original game. Like it's a very big difference graphically. Like you can see the reflections, the ray tracing is being used, obviously. Look at the detail of James's boots, like everything, like it's just amazing. Like this shot here, I was blown away when I saw this, like look at the detail of everything. The thing you guys have to understand is the way they made the original game is they did it in a way so that you can't see the top half of the buildings and all that. One, to keep the limitation because they can't handle that much detail for draw distance and everything else. But two, the camera was kind of always fixed. You couldn't rotate camera views back then. They didn't really support dual sticks on a controller really much back then, even though they had them. The games, this is all new stuff, so the games didn't really design around that, right? So you were always cut off from being able to look any higher than what you see here all the time throughout the entire game, so you never saw the top halves of the buildings like ever, so like you were always very restricted. So that's why I say if you look at here, like this is what you're seeing in the game down here with all the fog and everything else, right? So and this is what the games models are actually like. You don't see the top halves of them, like the stores and everything else. Like this is what they actually look like, without the fog and everything, So Whereas in the new game, you're getting everything. Like, and it's not that the fog's not restricting your view, but you're seeing all the detail because you're going to be able to rotate the camera all around it. We've never had that level of detail ever. And like, look at this. Look at the detail of everything here. It's just amazing. Like the street. Look at the wear of the paint and everything else. Like, it's just like all the debris, the signs, the wires. Now, some people would argue that, it shouldn't have wind or anything like that. Well, you have fog, first of all, that's blowing around all the time. I have no problem with that. It's absolutely eerie. It's absolutely otherworldly. It just looks creepy. It's perfect. I love it. Absolutely love it. And as far as James's look, they spot on as far as I'm concerned, man. Like they nailed it. And this was a big deal. Seeing these two names is a huge deal. Masahiro Ito is the one who created the original creature designs, all the monsters, and he also did art design for the first game, the second game, and the third game. So he was very involved in this series. With monster design and some level designs or just art design in general. Whereas Akira Yamaoka, he's done the music for the entire series with the exception of Downpour. So for everyone, he's like the soul of the series. Like his music, absolutely amazing, and it was used in a Silent Hill movie as well, which was awesome. And I use it in my pinball game because it's just amazing, absolutely amazing. So seeing these two involved made me and so many people out very happy. So yeah. Super happy about this. Now, this scene here, there's a little bit extra going on here, but this is obviously the big Pyramid Head scene reveal. Now, some people complain that they think James looks too old. I have no problem with that. Like to me, the original James, the CG, like if you go back to like the CG scenes, like this was, how things looked back then. Like Sato's CG work was fantastic, but everything had that plasticky look back then, so everyone looked perfectly young. No one looked aged. No one had flaws in their skin or anything whatsoever, so that's why everyone looked so pretty or perfect and young, in the games back then, right? But so for me, him having actual age, like looking a little older, having actual expressions, like his detail is just way, way better than the original game. Like you can't even compare it. Like there's just no comparison. Like, like this is the original game. Like again, I'm not knocking the original game. Like the developers or all that. This was amazing for its day and age, but they were limited by the technology at the time, right? Like look at the difference, man. Like this is amazing, and this is again end game graphics, guys. This is not pre-rendered, and we all know what that scene is, so it's going to be interesting. So this is Brookhaven Hospital, and that's Laura we got there. This looks amazing. You want to see what the original looked like? This is the original right here. You know what I mean? Like, that's the original model. Same thing. You're limited. There was no roof or anything like that, and they were designed like that on purpose, because again, when you're playing, you're like zoomed in down here, so you're never going to see any of that, right? Whereas on the new game, well, you're going to be able to look up and see details you've never seen. So it's going to be amazing, guys. So I was super excited when I saw all this. And then, of course, we know that scene, where that's in the apartments. Like, this detail is beautiful. Like, it's smooth. Like, the way he looks, like, all his detail, his animation, compared to the original game, this is absolutely stunning stuff, guys. Like, I was absolutely amazed and happy with what I saw in this trailer. Like, this was just beautifully done. Now, this is the one. This particular shot here. This is a puzzle in the original game. A lot of people don't like the fact that James has expression, that he can sometimes look sad or look just, depressed or whatever. I have no problem with that. Again, I personally feel it was more a limitation of the animation back in the day, because that had to be done by hand. It was all keyframes. Like, Sato had to do that stuff the hard way, all by himself, manually animating that. I don't think he had any form of motion capture, or if he did, it was just for the basic body movements. But for the facial animation, all that, he had to do that all manually. Whereas today, you got motion capture in the faces, and you got these amazing model detail. Like, look at this detail. This is gorgeous. Like, look at the lighting, the stubble, and his like. This is absolutely stunning, guys. And look at his eyes, like the small bits of animation. Like those details absolutely are huge compared to their prior games. So they've really stepped up in their quality, even compared to their prior games. Now, this is obviously in the hospital. You got a nurse, and Jane's going to come out and he's going to bash her. We're going to come back to this after watching the next video. Now, again, look at this detail. Now, a lot of people didn't like that, they I don't know, some people were like, he looks ugly. No, he's not ugly. He looks like a real friggin' person. Like, this is amazing detail. Like, this is gorgeous. Like, I had no problem with this at all. He looks amazing. The big difference is people compare this to, for example, the old games, as I mentioned before, they look very CG-like, and I'm not saying the CG is, bad. It was amazing for its day, but it's a very big difference, right? Like, everyone looks perfect. You know what I mean? They have that plasticky perfect look. Whereas on this, he's got flaws in the skin. He's got a little bit of aging. He's got, facial hair, and he's got expression, like really detailed expression. Like, like the subsurface scattering, the details, the shadows, everything. It's just the hair movement, like this is all in game, guys. Now this, I understand people's concern with this. I get this, this is a very important part of the game, and I'm not going to spoil it, but the way that kind of looked, I get it. Like, it kind of looked like he was doing like a Hulk smash there, I think that scene will be much better when you see it in full context with the music and the sound all the way from beginning to end. I think that scene will be a lot better in game. I think people don't understand that what you see in the trailer versus what you see in the game and how it's presented to you is a huge, huge difference. But like, same thing. Like, look at this. Like, look at the eyes. Like, look at this detail, man. This is amazing stuff. In-game graphics, guys. Like, look at that. Like, that's fantastic work. And that looks like a real person to me. Versus, say, Capcom Resident Evil games, they look like Japanese animated in-game video game characters. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but they look very pretty and perfect and handsome with no flaws, and they don't look as human to me, if that makes sense. But they look amazing, but they look very shiny and nice and and perfect. You know what I mean? This looks like a regular person who's gone through a lot of emotional trauma and everything else going on here, and it shows as it should. This is amazing work, guys. Anyone who's criticizing this, I can't relate. I just can't relate. It's absolutely beautiful work. And now, this is the other thing that some people were upset about, because this is where we're meeting Maria for the first time. Well, sure, she wasn't in a gazebo in the original game, but it's still the same location. The gazebo was right nearby, so I have no problem with it. If it's out in the water or in that area, that's fine by me. This is actually, if anything, this is more romantic, if you will, for a special spot that he would have been looking for Mary, right? So instead of just, looking out on the walkway. So the other thing is James' jacket, like his look is perfect. Like it looks just like the real game, only so much better. And then we got the original logo, but updated a little bit, but with the original cobweb look and all that. So yeah. And now this. We obviously know who this is. This is Pyramid Head. Like, the Pyramid Head. The movie's Pyramid Head is a different monster. Looks different. Yes, it's based on Pyramid Head. Yes, we call him Pyramid Head, but it's not the same monster. This is the real Pyramid Head. And not just that. Look at this detail on him. This is what, Masahiro Ito's original sketches look like. All this kind of detail. His helmet is actually his head, for those who don't know. And you can see it looks like either kind of like a wet skin look, because of all the rain, and that detailed rain looks amazing. Like, look at this. This looks fantastic. And he's got like that little valve that's popping out, just amazing. So yeah, so my personal impression of this first trailer was absolutely stunning. Like, this is probably, again, running on PC, maxed out graphics, probably 60 FPS or close to it, So that's why this looks so amazing. All right. It's important that we remember that because we're going to go into the next trailer, the combat trailer, and I'm going to compare it back and forth afterwards because that's the new combat trailer is where everyone is kind of have a lot of varied opinions. So I'm going to watch that, and then I'll talk about it afterwards, and then do some comparisons of what I noticed. So we'll just watch that now. So this just debuted, I think, like a couple weeks ago, I think. I can't remember how long it was, but this is after over a year and a half of no news of any sort, no images, no updates, no nothing. The only thing we had was like the Steam page images, which look amazing, by the way. Like, this is all we've had are these images. Now look at that. That looks amazing. That's the hospital with the nurse. That looks gorgeous, guys. Again, this is in game. That's amazing stuff, guys. Look at this. This is beautiful. This is gorgeous. Those nurses look amazing. And another screenshot, which would be interesting. This could be something new. Maybe a new puzzle. Who knows? And then a great shot here, of James, about to attack a lying figure. Now, what's interesting is it looks a little different. It's the same but different. It has kind of like sort of like stitched up spots on its slit, which is interesting because on my pinball game version of this, that's actually what I have as well. I have like bloody stitches all along there, and a friend of mine, who's very good at modeling was the one who helped me out with that to retexture the model, right? And it was interesting, that he chose that look, but then it wound up being a similar look to what they use in the game. And we'll talk more about that after the combat trailer. But yeah, so you can see what this is looking like. So this is all we had for like a year and a half. And then Sony State of Play comes out, and there was rumor we might actually get to see something. Well, we saw a new Silent Hill trailer for the short message, which is like a free experience that you get to play on PlayStation 5. I obviously couldn't play that, but then, boom, right after that, we get a new Silent Hill 2 trailer, and this is what we got. So we'll watch that right now. Oh, hold on. Gotta turn that volume up. There we go. All right, guys. So that's what we got after after a year and a half of not even knowing if the damn thing's gonna be shown anytime. We finally see that. Now I'll give the disclaimer. When I watched it at the Sony State of Play live stream. The video quality was terrible. So I want to give that disclaimer before I give my first impression. All right. So we had no idea how it was gonna look. We only saw that first trailer. We watched this, the video quality was terrible, but then the video you're seeing right now has good, clean quality, right? But when I watched it, I won't lie. My first initial impression was like, some parts of it, I was like, okay, very happy with what I'm seeing. It's being faithful to the original game. But then some parts of it, I was like, ooh, that looks a little rough. You know, that my first initial impression. I'm just being straight up honest, impartial here, okay? You know, so that's what I want to go through and talk about. All right. So I went back and finally watched a proper 4K version of this video. That was a high quality video that looked great. So huge difference there. But I'm going to talk about what I've noticed in this trailer and my personal opinions, and also talk about some of the things that have come up since this trailer came out. You know, so yeah, so a little rough. We'll go through some parts and compare it to the original trailer. Some of the differences and some things I've noticed. All right, so I'm going to just turn this down for now. All right, so again, I'm going to talk as if a Silent Hill fan. So Silent Hill fans who have played the game are going to know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to try not to spoil anything, you know. So this is going to be geared more towards them. So we all know what scene this is. This is Woodside Apartments when James finds the dead body in the chair. Now, when I went back and watched this stuff a second or third time, I will say, when I was able to finally, because, you know, when you first watch this, you don't know what to expect. It's hard to decompress everything, you know, because you're just seeing a bunch of stuff thrown at you real quick, and you don't know for sure what you've seen. You don't know how good it looks because it's moving so fast and flashing so fast. You don't even have a chance to see anything in context at all. So, you know, once I was able to take a moment and go back and watch it in high quality at my own pace, you know, then it's like, okay, now I can relax a little bit and not be as worried, so to speak. But I will address some of the things. So right off the bat, the first thing I notice is James' hair. I don't know what it is. For some reason, his hair is super bright. I don't know why it is. Now, obviously, the TV shining on there is going to make it illuminate more, but for some reason, compared to the first trailer, his hair is bright in a lot of these scenes. I don't know why it is, if it's the specularity or the shine or whatever, or what's going on. Now, before I go any further, we've had some statements from the head of Bloober, who was responding to questions asked about this trailer. And basically, the bottom line is, I'm not going to go through the whole drama or anything like that, you know. But the bottom line is, to be clear, people are attacking Bloober for this trailer because they're saying, why are you showing a combat trailer? Why are you showing something that is supposed to be the focus of combat when Silent Hill really wasn't that kind of game? Resident Evil is that kind of game, but Silent Hill is not that kind of game. It had combat, to be clear. There was always combat in Silent Hill. It was never really great combat to begin with. It was, you know, but it absolutely had melee combat, gun combat, and you had to engage in monsters. You could try to avoid them, but there were times where you had no choice. You know, so you absolutely had combat, but the trailer clearly was focused on combat only. You know, hence the name Combat Trailer, right? So a lot of people were kind of upset with that, you know. But the thing is, Bloober Team has made it very clear from the beginning. They do not make the promotional material. They do not make the trailers. They have no part in any of that. Konami handles all of that, and they have for all their games. You know what I mean? Like so Bloober makes the game, hands off whatever version of the game is at that time to Konami. Konami then, with their own promotion departments, captures whatever footage they want, edits it the way they want, and adds whatever sounds and music to it that they want. And that's important. We'll get back to that. All right? So it's important that you guys understand that. So this whole trailer was not created by Bloober at all. So anyone who has a problem with the makeup of this trailer or why they showed so much combat, that's not on them. Okay? And this has been rumored to have been using a very old build, and this trailer was possibly made like up to a year ago. So, you know, it's possible Konami just held on to this for a long time, and then for State of Play, they decide, yeah, here's what we got, show that off, you know, and it's still in development, and they kept it at that. It does happen, guys. Like, I've seen this happen with games before, so, you know, it is what it is. So, yeah. So, with this scene, you know, we have a flash of a few things. This is obviously the moth room there where he has to put his arm into the hole, and then this is obviously one of the puzzles which we're surprised they kept because it was kind of a ridiculous puzzle, but it's the juice box puzzle that you had to, you know, use to get an item, you know, and sure enough it's still there, and people would be upset if they changed that. So you could see that they're keeping the safe puzzle as well, and that's all. This is in the same area, the apartments, right? And then you have the clock puzzle, so you have a whole bunch of things being shown within the apartments that are being true to the original. All right, now this looks fantastic. This is exactly what I like. For real, this is beautifully done. This is beautiful detail. James looks perfect. His clock detail looks perfect. The shadows, textures, and everything looks perfect. Like, this is great. Like, this is exactly what I want to see. Now, this fading in and out that they did is kind of, it's not Bloober who did that. This is Konami who did this, the way they edited it. It kind of makes it look weird and cheesy. So, it's kind of weird. They just cut in and out so quickly, you don't get a chance to even see anything, right? So, Woodside Apartment, this looks fantastic. I will say it seems like the gamma is up a little too high to me. I don't know why. I just feel like the gamma seems a little bright when you compare it to the original trailer. Let's see if I can find Woodside. Yeah. So this is the original trailer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, look how much darker it is. You know what I mean? Like, how for some reason in this trailer everything's really bright. So that could be either the settings that Konami used to create the video, who knows what. So that the whole video, I got the impression that the gamma levels were off, So, but the detail of the apartments and that looks fantastic. Like, look at it, all the way up to the top. You can see all that detail. Amazing, And if you're wondering, James is looking over at an item because that's what he does in the game. His head rotates left or right if there's an item nearby of interest that he can pick up. Because the one thing about this game is that they don't use a HUD, and they stuck to that, which I'm very happy about. There is no HUD while you're playing at all. The only kind of HUD you get is when you go to your inventory screen. But while you're playing, you see nothing. The only thing you get is James' head looking around to show you that, oh, there's something of interest nearby. That's it. And they're sticking to that. That's awesome. Except for one thing, which we'll get to. All right. Now, his walking does look a little odd, but, and that's what everyone's talking about. And we'll get more into that. In all fairness, the original game, his walking was kind of odd as well. In all fairness, it's this jacket. This jacket just makes him look weird while walking. That's my opinion. I felt that way with the original. I felt like his walking was kind of, I don't know, a little weird and odd while he just walked around the game. Like, I don't know if I can show it here or not, but yeah, his walking isn't exactly, anything amazing in the original game either. And for this trailer, he has, look at this. His walk isn't exactly amazing. It's just a walk, right? So I don't know. I think people are reading it. I agree. It looks a little odd, but I think part of it is, the point of view we have. It's fine. It just kind of, because we're having the over shoulder view, it is different, and that's another thing a lot of people were upset about too. Is a lot of people, I think, were thinking it's going to be just like the original game with the same fixed cameras and that. And anyone who thought that really kind of needs to wake up to video games made in the last 5 to 10 years. They don't do games like that anymore, except for maybe, some smaller indie games that might do that, the ones that want to try to sort of replicate Silent Hill or Resident Evil, right? But yeah, I mean, this is not the only game to use this with Silent Hill. Homecoming absolutely had a similar kind of view. That came out in 2008, I think, or 2008, I think. Shattered Memories on the Wii came out after that, same point of view, so, and then Downpour, same thing. So it's not the first time we've had this in a Silent Hill game. I think a lot of people weren't paying attention to the Bloober teaser trailer when this was first announced. That made it very clear. They're using this point of view. So I think a lot of people got upset when they saw that. They're calling it a Resident Evil clone. That's just dumb. I'm sorry. Tons of games use this point of view. So it has nothing to do with Resident Evil. Obviously, they were going to go with this view. So it's a little stiff because he's going up the steps here, and it looks a little odd, So I'll admit to that, Now that looks great, although the fading in and out that they did in the video doesn't help. The fog looks great, although I do think this should be a little more dense. You shouldn't be able to see quite that far, like maybe up to the point of where that fog is. It should be pretty dense, just like in the first trailer, actually. Like, well, yeah, I guess it's similar, but it still looks more dense here. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but this detail is fantastic. And I think here's the other problem that people complain about is that it doesn't have the pop and color and shininess and glossiness that Resident Evil games have. Those games are beautiful. They're detailed and they're gorgeous, but they're very shiny games. They're very polished and glossy looking, So they stand out. They pop more. Thank God Bloober is not following that pattern. They are making this game to look like the original. The original did not look like that at all. It was a very, dull, not bright game at all. Like it was very dim, like it was not shiny or anything else. Like so the color palette, the tone, everything is the same. So, I think they're doing just fine as far as that's concerned, like yeah, so I mean, this is looking fine. Although I still think the gamma levels are off a little bit. Now, I will admit, this threw me off. When I first saw this, I was like, ooh, it kind of threw me off because it's very different than the original game. The original game does not have that looks like the apartments, but the original game, if we go to the apartments, let's see here. When he first goes in, let's see if I can find her. Yep, right there. Hold on. Yeah, I'm kind of skipping it here, but there. I'll just let it go a bit. But yeah, this is the entrance of the apartments in the original game. Very different looking, right? And this is all you saw in the original game. It's just this. Just a small area here. You picked up a map and then you went up the stairs and that's it. Whereas in the new one, we have more of an open foyer, with the mailboxes and everything else here, right? And they had mailboxes in that, but it's obviously going to be different, which I'm actually fine with. Like it just looks odd to us at first. I think, again, look how bright this is. I think the gamma level is off. This is just too well lit, right? There's just something off about all of this. It looks like Konami brightened this up to make it more visible for the trailer, but I don't think it's going to look like that in game. I think it's going to be much more darker like it is in, the original game, where you can't see too much in certain areas, So that's what stood out to me. I really think they changed all this, and that's why certain things just look way too bright compared to what they should be. That's not unusual. Now, with this one, it kind of threw me off. I think this is the hospital, to be honest. It could be the apartments, but I think it's just kind of very opened up there. But if you look at this, you could see there's like a kind of like boarded up windows that are allowing some light to come in. So that's not from his flashlight. Some people were thinking that. It's not. Now, that's obviously the coin puzzle. When he pulled that blanket off, it looked a little odd. I'm going to say one thing about this trailer. I think the frame rate is messed up. It's either locked in at 30 frames per second, because this is PlayStation 5, this trailer. This is made for Sony State of Play. They made it very clear this was captured on a PlayStation 5. So this is probably locked in at 30 frames per second. And that's why everything kind of looks choppy. Compared to the first video that was smooth, everything looked really, really nice, but it looked like they brightened everything up with a higher gamma level, and it looks like the frames per second is either off because it's 30 FPS on PlayStation 5, and they probably captured it with a capture device, which probably reduced the frame rate or video quality even more on top of that. So that's my. I think that's why this whole trailer looks off. It just looks very off compared to the first one, and that's why people are kind of confused and frustrated with it. Because yeah, you can see it just the frame rate doesn't quite look right. And I've got a nice PC. I've got when I played the medium and Layers of Fear, the new one, I'm playing at 144 frames per second and 4K with ray tracing on. I've got a pretty nice PC, so I'm well set to play this game with some pretty nice details on there. And this is going to be a very demanding game. On Steam, as of now, these are the specs. Not crazy specs, but you need a pretty good system. If you want to have the higher end settings, you do need a newer computer. The PlayStation 5 is going to be more limited, but yeah, I just think that it's going to be pretty demanding to get smooth frame rates and really, really high end details. So now we come to a very important moment, which I won't spoil for anyone, but this is when you first find your flashlight, obviously, and we see our first monster. Oh, our first detailed look at a monster. So this is a mannequin. This looks honestly, this looks fantastic. I love the way they've added the extra details to these things. Now, this is interesting. This is the first time we saw the combat, right? This mannequin looks different than any of the ones we've ever seen before. Like, it looks, I'm not sure if that's more fleshy or if that's more just bloody and beaten up or whatever like that, but there's a variation in it. It's not the same as the previous one, and it's not the same as ones we've seen before. So you can see that there's going to be more detail to these monsters than there were in the original. Like, they look great. The monsters look fantastic. Now that combat, we'll get back to that. Now, this is what people are kind of saying. They're saying that his animation is a little bit janky or a little bit stiff. Now, in all fairness, the original game didn't exactly have amazing, combat animation either, So as far as his actual animation, like him swinging the wood plank and all, that actually is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, the frame rate is off. I guarantee you. Like, this is probably like 25 frames per second, for some reason. Like, it doesn't even look like it's 30 frames per second. It just looks off. So the way they made the video may be a problem. Two, the other problem is the camera movement. The camera movement is just kind of, moving all over the place. It's not just staying still while he's doing his stuff. And I think that's the problem. Because if you look at other games, like, say, your Resident Evils or your Alan Wake and all that, they don't have that. The camera's not dynamically moving every time they take a swing or something like that. Like, I think that's the problem. Like, the camera is just shifting around all over the place while he's doing it. It's not that it's bad, and maybe a smoother frame rate would make a huge difference, but I think that's the biggest problem. Because if you go back to the original trailer, right?
Streams.
No, hold on a second. Let me turn that down. So if we go back to the original, right? Let me just get back here. All right. So this is the exact same animation, only now the camera is not moving. Look at the difference. Like, that's a huge difference. Like, that looked perfect. Like, like it looked like he was landing on that nurse. She was reacting correctly. And we were able to see everything because we're not as closely zoomed up and the camera's not shifting around. So I think the bigger problem is the camera shifting around, and the frame rate. Because, like his movement is fine. Like, his actual animation is fine, but it's just jarring all over the place when the camera moves, right? So I think the problem is when he is making contact with them, because everyone thinks it doesn't look like he's actually hitting them. He actually is, but their reaction seems to be a little bit delayed. And I think that's because you can see the blood splat there, right? So, and it's happening so fast, so it's a little bit jarring. Let's see here. Now so you can see it. Like, it seems to be reacting correctly. It's almost like there's a half-second delay, between when he hits them and when they react. So watch when he winds up here a little bit, which I think this is great. Oh, you can see that this guy was trying to spew at him. That's interesting. So he got hit once already, and as a result of that, his attack was moved out of the way. That's interesting. So watch, he hits him. So it's about to hit him. So again, the animation is actually fine if it was smooth, and the creature is reacting appropriately, but it seems like it's delayed a little bit, right? And then watch, his second swing is different. It's not the same as the first one, right? Now he hits it in the mid. And then again, it's reacting, but it's reacting a little bit too slow. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like a delayed reaction. Now, as far as these monsters, like these lying figures, these look fantastic. These are perfect. Like, this is exactly what the original design looks like. This one right here. This is perfect. Like, this is more accurate to Masahiro Ito's original concept sketches than the original game had. You know what I mean? So this is perfect. Like, it has the exact kind of skin look that he wanted. Because in the original game, all these monsters looked shiny and glossy. Almost like they had, like, like a plastically a plasticky look onto it, and instead of more of a fleshy look, if that makes sense. And again, you could argue both ways, but and yeah, see, this is perfect. It's got the slit like it originally had, and there are variations. You can see this is the one that looks more stitched up that we talked about before, and then you can see that the leggings look, which is kind of new. The emphasis on that, and they have like, a high heel look onto their feet, and the weapon's perfect. And if you're wondering where this is in the pool behind the apartments. This is perfect. Like, all of this looks exactly the way it should. Like, the pool looks like, shiny, and the tiles look great. Like, this looks good. The problem is the frame rate and the movement of the camera and the delayed reaction of the hits are the bigger problem. Like, that looks fantastic, guys. Like, that looks really good. Now, this is the one that I think everyone universally does not like. Quick time events. Now, I'll be honest with you, yeah, I was not a fan of this either. It's not unique for them to put this in. I mean, almost all new games of this type have this now. Even the original game had sort of quick time events when monsters would attack you. You'd have to, push a button, bash a button to get them to let go of you. But the difference was there was no button prompts in the original game, and you didn't have the splash effect. Now, the splash effect is a bit much, I will admit. It looks fine, but for a third-person view, it is a bit weird. And this button prompt has to be gone. This just looks wrong. So I hope they give us the option, if this stays, to remove that. Because there's no HUD, and we don't want a HUD. Get rid of this. Everyone agrees with this, okay? Now, some people don't like the fact that this monster looks like it's grappling. I don't think it's grappling him. I think it's just trying to, lean towards him and then spew more into his face, which is what happens here, I don't think, people are like, he has no arms. How could he be, grappling? I don't think he was grappling him. I think he was just lunging, walking towards him and then trying to spew at him. And James is trying to push him back, but then, And what's great about that, now that, again, the problem here to me is the camera movement. It's not as much the animation or what's going on. It's the camera movement that makes it look jarring. It's just shifting all over the place, and we're not getting a chance to see what the heck's going on, right? Now, it's cool. You can see he's getting covered in all this goo. You never saw anything like that in the original. So, I mean, again, the effects are fine, except for the on-screen effects are a bit much. I hope that's an option you can turn off. I'm fine with them having it in there as long as we can turn it off, And some of the older games did allow for things like that. But yeah, those effects are actually not bad. Now, the way his arm is blocking, that looks awkward, But I think part of that is also because of the coat. I'm telling you right now, that coat made James look horrible with his animation in the original, and it's the same thing here, It could be better. It could be better. There's no doubt it could be better, But again, those aren't... Yeah, that arm did look a little weird. But yeah, I think if they took the prompt out and gave you the option to remove those effects and gave you the option to have a still camera instead of a dynamic camera, which a lot of games do give you that option so that the camera doesn't shift around while things are going on, I think that would be fine. Now, some people were complaining about the way he's holding his gun. I mean, yeah, if they had him hold it like he did with the original, he would just kind of run, like he's jogging kind of thing, But in a third-person view, that would look kind of weird. So, I don't know. I understand that, but it's not the biggest deal. He's not holding it like some kind of specialist or SWAT member or some, special forces person. It's fine, Now, this is new. It's probably, I assume it's in the apartments. There's some kind of lying figure body or something in here. And look at that detail. That looks great. Look at this. This looks great. Now, this is one that a lot of people were talking a whole lot about, And I'll point out, look how shiny his hair is. It's the one thing visually that stands out to me is his hair. It's just way too bright, way too shiny. It's like the specular reflection or specular highlighting was cranked up too high in the model settings. So yeah, they need to dial that back down so that he looks more like he, did here. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's just something off about that. Some people were commenting on this text here. I mean, the original game has a lot of text that you see that are, you could worry that it's giving away too much, right? This text is doing nothing different than what any of that other text did. Showing it in the trailer, yeah, not necessarily the best idea, you know. So again, that's not Bloober's fault. That's Konami choosing what to be shown in this trailer, right? Now, the way this text looks, this literally looks like it was taken from Layers of Fear. Like, it literally looks like that. So yeah, the way this looks is kind of a little weird and iffy. This could be something new. This could be a completely new, say, content or side mission or who knows what, because this game may have a bunch of new content, right? But yeah, I'm not sure exactly where this is at, but lots of detail here. Okay, now that's something else we noticed. Here's another lying figure, but completely covered in blood and goo and stuff. And the nurses and the lying figures have these bits and pieces on them that look like glass or shards of something, or maybe porcelain. You know, like the idea that maybe there's like a porcelain aspect to each of them, kind of like a porcelain doll, if you will, and then when they get hit, pieces of that come off, or maybe it's like fabric bandages coming off. So that's new, that's different. I'm curious what's going on with that. But I love the fact that we're getting these varied monsters. That's awesome. Like, I seriously love that. You know, like, because the original only had like two variants, the clean version and a really dirty version of each monster pretty much, whereas this one has a bunch of different versions of each monster, which is great. I actually personally love that. And you can see he's covered in blood on here. You know, he's got some on his face and on there, so I'm wondering if this is going to be a health indication. You know, will this kind of show us, you know, how badly injured he is, and then you might want to, you know, use a med kit or something like that, because in the original game they had that red cross that popped up, which I never understood because there's no other HUD, you know, so I never liked that popping up. So maybe this is going to be that, or maybe it's just him getting covered and stuff. Who knows? Now, some people were complaining about the gun sounds. Like, I'll turn that up a little bit here. Yeah, like... So, to clarify, guys, I mentioned before, Bloober did not make this trailer. This was put together by a separate department, either a Konami or a separate company. So the sounds that were put in this trailer was their, you know, what they chose to put in there. Like, they possibly could have put in placeholder sounds or muffled the sounds down so that the music is, you know, more vibrant and, you know, heard more, you know, like, that's very common. Like, you know, most game trailers don't have game sounds at all. They usually just have a bunch of music blaring and that's about it, you know. So these are placeholders, guys. Like, you know, even like Bloober's sound designer, who's a world-class professional, like, the guy knows what he's doing, what he's talking about, clarified that, yeah, you know, the sounds do not sound like that in the game. They're very loud and very, you know, they have a lot of power to them and all that, you know. So yeah, that the people who are complaining about the gun sounds understand they will not be like that in the actual game, you know. So, and that goes for the sounds of the monsters getting hit and stuff. I guarantee you those are all placeholders, or they were added in by whoever put this video together. That is very common, actually, guys. Like, because there's no other game sounds at all in this whole thing. Like, there really isn't. So again, this is not real in full context gameplay, you know, with the full context music and sound. That's a huge difference. So the people who are complaining about the sounds and all that and attacking Bloober on that's not on them, guys. So yeah, rest assured that will be way better in the actual game. Now, this, another quick time event, it is a little awkward, you know, like, yeah. Now this, I'm not sure where this is. Like, I don't know if this is the apartments or if this is the prison, or if this is at the end of the game. Like, you know, it's hard to tell, you know, like, it is hard to tell. Now, again, this looks awesome. Like, this, I think this is in the hospital. Like that looks great to me. Like, you know, that looks good. And yeah, I mean, you can see a little bit of a blood spot. That looks fine. You know, that looks okay. And we'll just jump forward here. I'm going for us. So now I will admit, this particular shot I did not like at all. It's mainly because there's no normal maps or bump maps or anything like that. And I'm sure that it's not going to be like that in the final game. Because again, this does not look like a Bloober made game right now. You know what I mean? Like their games don't look like this. So my guess is again this was an early build, not finished, recorded a long time ago. So yeah. And that's the valve puzzle. This is most likely Eddie throwing up in the toilet. So a lot of people are commenting about James looking different here. I think it's more the hair that being super bright that makes him look different. And we don't get this is not crisp like the original trailer was, so we're not seeing his facial hair and the other stuff. It's possible they could have like youngified him a little bit based on the reactions of everyone. Who knows? It's possible. But I mean, he still has fantastic detail. This is obviously him getting the knife after he met Angela, and this is the same room there. And then that's him finding the gun. And some people pointed out a nice detail. You got the number 8 in the shopping cart, which is an actual supermart in Silent Hill. So that's a nice little added extra detail they threw in there. And then you can see the casings on the ground. So here we go. Now you can see we're most likely in the hospital, and you can see a bunch of nurses coming through a doorway. And it looks like some of them have like green goo when they get shot, or they also look like they have like, what looks like could be, porcelain bits, or because their head. I don't know what the idea is that they're meant to be like a porcelain head or not. Like we never really knew for sure. But yeah, you can see some of them have blood that comes off, some of them have green goo that comes off, and I'm fine with that actually. The original game gave you choices of changing the blood to different colors anyway. Well, Silent Hill 3 did. I don't think Silent Hill 2 did, but Silent Hill 3 gave you those options of changing it to purple or green or black, Now the other thing I also found interesting was that the idea of how our door is going to work in this one. That was another thing too. I think early on that people complain, and I understand where they're coming from. Is the animation of him opening the door looked a little that looked a little weird. I'll just go back to that for a second there. Yeah, so I mean it just looked a little stiff and weird and quick, and the frame rate just seems off. So it'll be interesting to see, will you have control over this? Do all doors open quickly in the same way? Like, for example, in Homecoming, where are we here? Do I still? Yeah. So in Silent Hill Homecoming, you could choose to either open the door slowly or just bash it open. You could do either or, so... See, like, that's how it looks in Homecoming. Now, this is 60 frames per second, so that's why it looks a lot smoother, guys. Like I told you, frame rate makes a huge, huge difference. But this is, the older Silent Hill Homecoming, right? So... And Shattered Memories, same thing, over-the-shoulder view, With this one, you could absolutely gradually open the door slowly if you wanted, or do it super quick, So it's interesting to see, how this is going to play out, because the problem is, they're not a problem, but the difference with the older games versus anything modern, any newer game, is that the older games never opened and closed doors at all. Like it was basically, if you wanted to go into a room, well then it would just fade to black and then load and then fade back in and you're in the room. You never saw the doors open and close at all in Silent Hill 1, 2, 3, and 4. So with this new game, everything is seamless. There's no loading times. You're not waiting for anything. The game is seamless from start to finish. You don't have to wait for anything because, with the newer M.2 drives, data is streaming in constantly, super fast, so they don't have to wait for any of that. So the idea is you can go in and out of the doors seamlessly. So I'm wondering, will nurses or other creatures open doors and come and chase after you once they know you're in an area? Like if a nurse saw you in a hallway, if you ran into an apartment and closed the door behind you, will they pursue you and come after you? And that could be a new gameplay mechanic. So I'm curious to see if that will happen, because that's how Shattered Memories work. Shattered Memories, had it where, you were trying to run away from the monsters, but they would follow you. They would find their way to wherever you were, and they'd come through the doors, or they'd climb over walls, or anything else, So it'll be interesting to see, because, they may be adding, based on what we see in the trailers, some of that, and we'll see if that works. Hopefully it's not going to be, like a chase sequence. We're not going to have anything like that. I guarantee they're not going to do anything like that. But I'm just curious if the doors will be opening or closing from monsters at all. Obviously, a mannequin ain't going to do it. They got no hands. But, nurses have hands, so they may possibly open doors and come after you, right? So, yeah, it's just interesting. And you can see the different variants of the nurses here. This one, has the stuff, the porcelain or whatever, the glass or whatever that is, goop coming off. Now, this is a part that a lot of people complain about with the shotgun. Now, I think part of the problem with this is he's walking towards the nurse continuously while shooting them, so that adds to how goofy it looks, right? But it does look a little odd the way he's holding that shotgun. Like I don't even see the butt. If it, normally the butt would go into your shoulder, right? So, and in the original game, he didn't hold it up; he just kind of held it at the hip, So it does. The shotgun does look a little odd. Now again, this coat makes everything look weird. I don't care what anyone says. The coat is just awkward. So you can see, the nurse is looking fine, doing the shaking stuff like they originally did, but when he gets close, you can see that part of it is lit up. You notice that? Like, you can see that a little part of the nurse is kind of like inflamed or lit up or something like that, And then, this blood splat isn't the best effect, but again, all this debris that's shattering off is very interesting. I'm just curious to see how that will look in game in full proper context. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Yeah, like I know some people were kind of complaining about the way he looks holding the gun. I think it's fine. He doesn't have to. He doesn't look like a SWAT person or a specialist. What's also interesting, and I think this may also contribute to why his hair looks the way it does, he's soaking wet right now. It's raining outside, so he's probably like soaking wet with his jacket, and we get to see that. Like he'll look all wet, just like most modern games do, and then his hair will also look the same way, right? So maybe that's part of what we're seeing in some of this. But yeah, you can see it's raining outside, right? So now this with the rifle looks fine. Like that was perfect. Shot her in the shoulder, falls back exactly as you expect, right? So that looks great. That looks fine. Now, again, I think the animation is actually fine here, guys. I think it's just the reaction is a bit delayed, a bit too slow, because he's swinging really fast, and he's actually hitting them pretty hard. It's just the sounds that they used, that they edited into the video. Again, I don't think Bloober did that. I think that was Konami who did that. Doesn't give the same impression as it will in game. So, again, I think the animation is fine. Like he's giving him a good whacking, But again, I think there's just a weird delay, But it's going so fast, right? It does look a little weird, but, the original game was intended to look that way too, right? So, and then look, he takes a shot, and then, the creature reacts and falls to its knee. We never had any of that in the original, right? So that's good. That's fine. Now, people were complaining about the stomp sound being horrible, and but that's, again, a placeholder sound, right? And the stomp in the original game was not that great. It just wasn't. It was just a weird, janky animation in the original. I actually hated the stomp in the original game. Whereas, and same with part 1 and part 3. Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3, the stomps were not great. I didn't really like them. They look too weird and awkward. Whereas Silent Hill 4, Henry's got the best stomp in the series. Like when he stomps on a monster, it's dead, right? So, yeah. So, now again, the blood, it looks a little weird, but this is how the original looked. His stomp was just super goofy. Now, some people were complaining about, the fact that the monster is sidestepping. Why not? Who cares? Like, a monster shouldn't just be going forward and back and that's it, Like, they're not, evading, but they are moving around to try to attack you, So, I think it's fine, Some people thought that was weird. And again, that reaction is perfect. Like, he hit it in the shoulder, they're flinging back. That's correct. That looks fine. Now, this is the one, that's, I will be the first to admit, seeing a nurse vault over that little barrier there, that does look weird. It does, like the way the nurse is just yeeting yourself over there, yeah, I'll be the first to admit, if they could, I have no problem with the nurse going over the barrier. I mean, they have arms and legs and hands and all that, it's not like a mannequin, right? So I'm fine with that, but not quite like that, that's just a little too human-like, as people would say, right? Like, these aren't supposed to be regular humans. They're supposed to be, manifested monsters, right? So, yeah. So I'll be the first to admit that looks a little weird. So, yeah, hopefully they can kind of make that look more weird when they do that, right? Instead of just like a normal commando leap over a wall, so. And then at the end here, everyone's thinking this is at the end of the apartment when we first meet Pyramid Head, that it's a big opened up area, which I'm totally fine with. I never liked the tiny areas with Pyramid Head or a couple of the other fights, because I found it just made the fights. I understand having a confined space makes it a little scarier, but it just makes the fights super goofy. They don't have to be this giant, mega battle or anything like that. But, having a little bit of a bigger space, kind of like Silent Hill 3 on the rooftop, when you fought the missionary, something like that, I think is fine. We'll see how it pans out. But it looks like that's Pyramid Head, and this might be that scene. We don't know for sure, but yeah. And then there's the end of the trailer. And then everyone's like, what? In development? Are you kidding me? Again, we've heard that this trailer was possibly made up quite a long time ago. And a whole bunch of things just got delayed with Silent Hill, period. Like the movie, everything just seemed to have been delayed by 6 months or so. So I'm seriously thinking that this is probably mostly older, game footage content that Konami put together themselves, and they just never bothered showing it until now. So, so when the head of Bloober is coming out saying, yeah, this trailer doesn't reflect the game we have, the game we're making, the spirit of what the game used to be, i.e., atmospheric, everything we loved about the original game. It's not some combat focused game like Resident Evil is, and he's saying that what they've made, Bloober has made now, is also like that. It's not combat heavy focused, it's the same game you love, just with a modern remaking of it. You know what I mean? So I can understand, why he came out and said it. Some people, splashed all over the internet saying, "Oh my gosh, Bloober is attacking," or blaming Konami, and they're constantly being attacked by so many people saying, yeah, you're the ones who are making this all about combat and making it about this and that and everything else. And it's like, someone translated an interview from the CEO, and, who knows how that translation was properly done. But the way I read it was, he's basically saying, look, guys, this trailer doesn't reflect the Silent Hill that and the Silent Hill that we are making. And it's not going to be a combat-focused heavy game, and that he felt that, the trailer was made to try to appeal to, say, those who do like Resident Evil and combat action games. And that might be a fair thing, because the old Silent Hill trailer kind of did have a lot of action in it, so, yeah. So, I don't know. I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. I think it's going to be awesome. Yes, is there work to be done? Yes, there is. Are there some bits that are rough? Yeah, but wait till we see the actual game. What they have now, that's a huge difference, in my opinion. It's just you can see the difference between the first trailer and the last. So there's definitely something that either changed or, was captured poorly, because again, this is probably PC. The other trailer was done on an early build for PS5, is my guess. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. The good thing is, the criticisms are out there. We don't know when this game's coming out. Hopefully, it's coming out this year. Probably late this year. If it's not, then so be it. But the bottom line is, now they hear what everyone's criticizing. They have the time to go in and fix it up and take care of whatever else. Again, my opinion is Bloober is very capable. They're very capable, and they have definitely elevated themselves compared to their earlier games. I think once we see the final game, we can finally make a really fair choice, or a fair judgment about it, because again, trailers aren't always accurate, like, yeah, sometimes trailers are better than the actual game, but when it comes to video games, it's a little different, like they can be improved dramatically in the final stages. So, and again, there might be a PS5 Pro coming out this year, which might make the game run and look way better with double the frame rate, right? So who knows? Because again, PC players are probably going to be very happy. It's probably going to run really well for us. PS5, it's probably going to be locked to 30 frames per second, is my guess. So yeah. So that's all I really wanted to say about both those trailers. Now I know this is a long video, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and hey, this is for the Silent Hill fans who like to, watch videos about this stuff. I've seen so many nasty, toxic, just negative videos put out there. People who love to throw out, clickbait titles just to get people watching their videos, and their videos are just endless, like, spews of negativity and toxic and bashing and stuff like that. And a lot of them are misinformed. It's almost as like I heard people complain about the music in the trailer. I'm like, guys, that music is from the original game. It's from the end credits of the original game, just remixed a little bit. Could it have been used better in the video? Sure, but again, that's it's from the original game. So you can tell the ones who have actually played the games versus the ones who watched videos of the game or don't remember the game well at all. So yeah, I think Bloober is definitely on the right track. They definitely are trying to recreate all the details we really love, but there are definitely areas they can improve, and hopefully they'll have them improved. So yeah, so I guess that's all I really want to talk about on this. Happy 25th anniversary, Silent Hill, and I'm really looking forward to not just this game, but all the other games. F and Townfall, we'll eventually see more about that. And you had the short message came out, which I can't play, but I watched a playthrough of that, and I thought it looked fantastic for what it was, a 2-hour short free experience. Absolutely, nothing wrong with that. It looked great. Everyone has their certain criticisms, that's fine, but for me, I thought it was great to see a Japanese-made Silent Hill experience of quality with amazing visuals, with Akira's music and Masahiro Ito's monster designs. It was great. So yeah, Silent Hill Ascension, yeah, it's rough. To me, that's not Silent Hill, guys. It's an experiment with the Silent Hill name on it. It is what it is, but these new games, I think, are going to be drastically different, and I am very much looking forward to what Bloober Team does with Silent Hill 2 remake. So yeah, I think I'll just leave it there, guys. We have the new movie coming out as well, which is based on Silent Hill 2, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And I guess I'll stop the video here. So I'll update you guys with any progress on my Silent Hill pinball game when it's eventually done. Long ways to go, but I'll get there. It's getting there. I'm having fun, but it's very slow paced. I'm one guy. I'm not a dev team that's making. I don't got like dozens or hundreds of people making one game. I'm just doing this by myself in my free time. So yeah, it'll be done when it's done. But yeah. So thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for any Silent Hill 2 news and any of my own news for virtual pinball stuff that I make and show off. So, see ya. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.